You've just lost someone, and now you're being told that there's a deadline to file a wrongful death claim. You're grieving, you're overwhelmed, and the last thing that you want to think about is having to file some legal paperwork. But if you wait too long, the window that you have to hold someone accountable could close forever. I'm Max the Axe, the gold standard in personal injury, and I've helped many families through this exact situation. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly how long you have to file, what kind of things slow down or speed up the process, and what are the biggest mistakes that families make while they wait, so that you can know what's urgent, what can wait, and how to protect your case without sacrificing the time you need to heal. The one date that matters. Before we get into anything else, I need you to hear this clearly. In a Texas wrongful death case, the most important date is the date that your loved one passed away. Not the date of the accident, not the date that the investigation started, and not the day that you received the police report. The date of the death is what starts the clock for most cases. And once that clock runs out, you can lose the right to bring the case, no matter how strong it is. The basic rule in Texas. Here's the basic rule. In Texas, you usually have 2 years from the date of the death to file a wrongful death claim. Let me make that real with an example. If your father was hurt in a crash on January 5th, but he didn't pass away until February 1st, the clock starts running on February 1st. And if you filed your case after that deadline 2 years later, the judge can throw out the entire case regardless of how strong it is. And most of the time, the judge will do exactly that. Why this deadline is so serious. A lot of families hear 2 years and they think, well, I have plenty of time. But here's what actually happens. The first few months after a death are usually a blur. You're handling finances, you have the funeral to arrange, you're dealing with everything from family to friends, and most importantly, you're trying to keep your life from falling apart. During these moments, time moves a lot faster than you think. And meanwhile, evidence can start disappearing. Witnesses forget details, video footage gets erased, documents get lost, companies change policies, people move around, and people also just start to forget what happened on that day. And the harsh truth is that the deadline doesn't just stop because you're grieving. So you don't want to wake up one day and realize that the time has run out. Who can file in Texas? In Texas, only certain people can file a wrongful death claim, and that usually means the spouse, the children, including the adult children, and the parents. Here's a detail that a lot of families miss. If none of those eligible family members bring the claim within the first 3 months after the death, the executor or administrator of the will has the right to file a claim. But listen closely, that doesn't give you extra time. The 2-year deadline still applies. So don't sit back and assume that somebody else is going to handle it. If you think you may be eligible, it's important to talk to an attorney early. That way, your case doesn't get exposed to the clock. Exceptions that can extend time, but don't bet on them. Now, there are some exceptions where that deadline can be paused or extended. But these circumstances are extremely rare, and you should never assume that they apply to your case unless you talk to a lawyer. Now, let me walk you through some of the most common ones. Exception number 1, minor children. If a child under 18 has the right to bring a wrongful death claim, that clock does not start ticking until the child turns 18 years old. So if, for example, a 10-year-old child loses their parent, that child can have up until their 20th birthday to file the lawsuit. But here's the mistake that many families make. That exception only protects the child. It does not protect anyone else. So if you're an adult, like a spouse, a parent, or an adult child, and you think that this exception applies to you because you have a brother or sister that it applies to, that is not the case. If you wait, you can lose your right to file suit. Exception number 2, fraud or concealment. If the person or company responsible hid what really happened, the law may allow for some extra time. This is where people hear the terms like the discovery rule. But this is not easy. You have to be able to prove that you could not have reasonably learned the truth during that 2-year period. And once you find out about it, you have to act quickly. So this is not something that you just rely on. This is something that a lawyer investigates if the facts support it. Exception 3, criminal cases don't usually pause the civil deadline. This one surprises a lot of families. If the death involves something criminal, like a drunk driving fatality, usually people wait for the criminal investigation to finish before they move forward with their wrongful death claim. But in most cases, that 2 year deadline that we talked about still runs as normal. So, unless a lawyer tells you something different, that criminal investigation does not pause the 2 year clock. What happens if you file late? Let me say this part as plainly as I can. If you file after the deadline, the defense will almost certainly ask the judge to dismiss the case, and the judge will almost always grant it, and there's very few ways to get around that. And that's why I tell families, do not guess on this deadline. Don't gamble with this. Get the date figured out and protect your case early. Real story, why waiting can cost you everything. Let me share with you a real world example with the names changed. A woman came to my office after her husband died in a workplace accident. She was focused on her kids and dealing with her grief, and she didn't want to worry about dealing with the legal claim. She finally came into my office about 3 years after the incident because she felt that the company's insurance was misleading her and treating her poorly. The first thing that I did was check the date, and I had to tell her that the law generally gives you only 2 years, and she was past this deadline. That means that we couldn't bring her case. And that is a conversation that I never want any family to go through. And not because they did anything wrong. I think that their pain and their grief is real, but nobody told them that the clock doesn't matter about how long you take to process your grief. It's a very sad case, but if I can do anything to help people who are dealing with the loss of a loved one, it's to tell them this, that the 2 year deadline is extremely important. Talk to a lawyer early before you forget about it. What to do right now. If you think you might have a wrongful death case in Texas, here are your next steps. First, write down the exact date that your loved one passed away. Second, gather all the evidence that you have in your possession. It's okay if you don't have everything. Police reports, incident reports, photos, medical records, medical bills, whatever you have, get that together. That includes any letters that you have with insurance companies or any particular witnesses that were there on the day of the incident. Third, talk to a qualified Texas wrongful death attorney. And here's the key. Talking to a lawyer today does not mean that you're suing tomorrow. It means that you're protecting your rights now so that you can have choices later, so that you can protect your case without rushing the healing process. Common questions I hear. Let me answer a few quick questions that I hear all the time. What if you don't know who's at fault yet? You still need to start before the 2 year deadline runs out. The investigation can take time, which is why it's so important to start early. What if the responsible party leaves the state or tries to hide? There are situations where the deadline may be affected, but don't just assume that it applies to your case. These exceptions are rare and complicated. Always talk to a lawyer first. What if you're already close to that 2 year mark? Don't panic, but move fast. A good attorney can often file on short notice. However, your chances are always better the sooner you call. Why talking to a lawyer early helps. A lot of people say, I'm just not ready to move forward with a legal claim, and I completely understand. But meeting with a lawyer is not about forcing you into a lawsuit or getting you into a trial. It's about making sure that the deadline doesn't steal options from you. It's about preserving the right kind of evidence before it disappears. It's about giving you clarity so that you can breathe a little. It's about giving you clarity that you can breathe knowing that you didn't miss your chance. So here's the takeaway. In Texas, you usually have 2 years from the date of the death to file a wrongful death claim. There are few limited exceptions, but families should not count them as guaranteed. If you're not sure, the best thing you can do is get the deadline confirmed early by talking to an attorney, even if you're not sure you want to move forward with a case yet, because you can protect your case without sacrificing the time that you need to heal. And if you're dealing with funeral costs, medical bills, and an offer from the insurance company where you read it and you say, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do with this, then my next video is for you. It's called, If I Can't Afford Medical Treatment, Should I Accept the Insurance Company's Offer After a Car Accident? Because that decision can help change what your case is worth and what you get stuck paying for after it's over. Click on that video now, and I'll see you over there.